Hello, everyone. Welcome to Shift Asia Global Webinar Series on the efficient MVP development. My name is Russell. I'm Pre-Sale Engineer in Shift Asia, and I will be your host today discussion. So let me have a quick introduction about Shift Asia. We are a software testing and development outsourcing company with a track record of over 1,000 projects worldwide. So today, our discussion will be about the MVP, which means minimum viable product. So joining me today is Peter Nguyen. He is Director of the Software Development in Shift Asia. Okay, hi Peter. Can you give our audience a quick introduction about yourself?
Okay, thanks, Russell, for the introduction. Hello, everyone. My name is Peter Nguyen. Recently, I'm the Director of Software Development at Shift Asia. So I have over 10 years experience in software development, and I'm also a passionate software engineer that always focus on the cutting-edge technologies. At Shift Asia, I look after a lot of teams, including security teams, automation testing teams, especially the software development teams. Because Shift Asia is the company focusing on quality. So one of my, I'm a strong advocate about quality development, efficient quality development team. So today, I would like to introduce a little bit about our MVP development service of Shift Asia and how we conduct MVP and what experience we have in the past. Hopefully, that we can give you a lot of information about how to have an effective MVP development. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Hi, everyone. Before we start, just a friendly reminder that we will have a small survey at the end. So we would appreciate if you could leave us some of your feedback to improve our webinar in the future. Thank you. Yes, so moving on to the next slide, please. Okay. So our discussion today will be about an MVP. So let's get started with the basic question. So what is an MVP? As many of you know that MVP translates into minimum viable product, is a product with just enough features to be usable by early customer who can then provide feedback for the future development of the product. So it's like a basic prototype at the first or the first step of your product that allow you to test and learn from real user as quickly as and cheaply as possible. You can look at the picture here. Imagine, for example, imagine your desired product is a luxurious car, and this image describes a metaphor explains what an MVP is and how MVP works. In the upper image, you can see that it's not a really good sample because building an MVP is not about building part of a product one by one. It's more like a upgradation. And you can see the below image, which is a better sample. So building a MVP is instead of wasting your time and resources building the whole thing at once, and you can so before building a really luxurious car, you start with a skateboard. It's basic, just a board with wheels, but it gets the car job done. That the thing that can help you on the transportation. This lets you test the fundamental concept, getting from point A to B with minimal investment and effort, and then you can upgrade your skateboard to a scooter, which is in the number 2, which is more convenient, and then you can upgrade it to the bicycle or to a motorbike, and your finally is your desired product, a luxury car, as you can see in the number 5. So I have a question for Peter. So what do you think about the reasons why business need an MVP, or what is the benefit of it?
I think one of the reasons that we really need an MVP is about that actually when we want to build a product for the end users, so you can see that the reason nowadays that their users, the need of the user evolves every day. Like for example, today user is going to need this feature, but tomorrow they might want another features. So the features change rapidly. With that change, you can see also that technology also change rapidly. Technology evolve every day as well. So if for the minimum viable product is going to help you, like you mentioned before, that to help you to test the product concept with the user as fast as possible. So you don't have to build a luxury cars in order to say that user is going to like your luxury car with the core features, like you're going to move from A to B, but you can start with a very simple features, simple concept, and you're going to test it, and then you're going to verify the market again, and then to see that the demands from the user, and then you're going to gather the user feedback, and then you can upgrade or evolve your product time by time. So totally that for the MVP, you have the ability to test your concept with the user as early as possible, and you're going to, manage the costs. You're going to create a very long-term but minimum cost as possible. So it's just one of the very important benefits for the MVP.
All right, thank you. But yes, I understand that, but things do not always go into right direction at the first time. So I have some research data that show the top reason that lead 80% of the startup to fail is just like the market needs, that they are providing more or less than the what really their user needs in their products. So according to the CB Insight, startups adopting the MVP methodology have a 30% higher likelihood of the achieving success. And the good firms report that developing an MVP can result in up to a 50% reduction in development costs compared to creating a full product from the start. And on the average, MVPs can accelerate time to market by like around 25%, as noted in a study by Harvard Business Review. And and at the end of that, the startup genome report reviewed that startups can that scale at the right pace experience growth rate around 20 times faster than those that prematurely scale with a fully developed product. So what I'm thinking about what is considered as a good MVP for a company to start up. So in the business view, it's very simple that no matter how deeply you research your audience need and how well you prepare for the marketing and strategy plan, etc., and a good MVP is just allows user or me to test the product or work the way I expected it to be. But I think that there is many point of views come from the technical that product owner wants to do and wants to provide to their user. So what do you think about it?
Well, I think that one of the reason that you mentioned is pretty much good, but I think we can come to the next slide that is going to show us a very overview of the picture. And I think that I really like these pictures, like from the left and the right. So it's pretty much easy for you to understand. Like from the left side is going to be the whole about business side, the stakeholders, that the one that really have the one that's going to be the product and to release to the end users, and you're going to need a resource team or development team in order to do that. So what the left hand side, you can see that we're going to have three bubbles. So the first one, what you could develop, it means that it's going to it's going to be about the features that you're going to provide. It's going to be the concept of your products. And the orange bubble is going to see about what customer want. So let's say, for example, like you have a concept, you think that your user is really need that, need a feature, need a concept. But the important thing is you need to test that. So you need to have a product for the end user to test it, to see that they really want it or not. And the third purpose is like the green one is going to the effort. It means that the money, the budget that you're going to have to do. So a good MBB is going to be the intersect between the three bubbles. You can see three rings together. So you can see in the center is going to be your good MBB. If you can, if you can analyze what you can do, what your features have, and what customer really want, and what is the budget you have. So you just gather them together, and then you check the intersection of three of the rings, so you can see that what is good MBB is. And the other thing is because MBB is going to be the abbreviation of minimum product viable. So the product means that you're going to have a lot of features. Like if you have a complete product, you have tons of features in that. But some of the features, they need to be released as soon as possible in order to test your concept that you really want to deliver to the end user. So it's going to be the minimum. So you have to limit the number of the features into the minimum as possible. But it doesn't mean that you're going to get rid of the most valuable features, because the most valuable feature is going to prove your concept to the users. It's going to give you, the difference between the other products. You have to stand out of the crowd. So you have to consider the minimum and the valuable parts, and then that intersect is going to be your good MBB product.
Okay, thank you. So yes, we can come to a conclusion that the good MVP is a minimum, but minimum viable product, not the minimum product. So yes, and yes, so I think there's some key factor to consider, and when a startup building a MVP product. So here I can give you some of the most important thing to consider when you before you going to build a product. So what do you think about this?
I think that these six factors is what we usually have with our clients, because at Ship Asia, we had a lot of clients from Japan. They asked us to build the MVP for them. And normally that we going to start with a number of the core features in order to build an MVP. So we're going to talk with the customer, with the clients, what is the concept of their product and what they really want to deliver the first time to the end user. So we have to wrap it up. Like we have to help them to analyze the number of core features. And the next thing, if you have the number of core features, the number second is also the important thing is that you have to design your product, because even though if you had a good functionality product, but your product doesn't have a good user experience or user interface, so nobody is going to use your product because it's too difficult to use. They're going to give up of using your product. So UI UX is a very important factors to be. So when talking about UI UX, we usually propose the customer is what is the potential user of their product. So what is the personality of their user? Because understanding the personality of the user to help them to create, even though the colors, themes, and how to like for example, like how to organize the layout, how to design the button, how to design the input text box, etc. Anything is very important. So understanding the personality of the users can help us to wrap up the design phase to create the UI UX. And third thing is also an important feature as well, because when we talk about MVP, the most important thing is you have to build the product as fast as possible. So you have to launch the features to the end user as fast as possible. So in order to do that, choosing the right technology stack is going to help you to do that. What I mean when telling you about a technology stack, because nowadays there's a lot of stacks out there to help you to build a product, to help you to build a web system. So you have to understand the core features and use the right technology stack in order to boost your productivity of your team. So for example, if you had a team of full stack engineer, like they are very good at JavaScript and TypeScript, so definitely that you can choose the stack, like front end is going to be TypeScript and back end is going to be Node.js or something like that. And then you can use some code generated framework in order to help them to shorten the number of code they have to write. And then you're going to consider about the performance and even the security as well, because when you launch a product, if the product has some defect about performance and security, your product is done. Nobody is going to use it again. So consider about performance and security, and also an important thing when you choose your technology stack as well. And because you have the number 3 and there's going to be number 4, team and experience. It's also an important feature as well. So when we talk about team and experience, we doesn't talk about like a lot of members in a team. So we usually provide a very minimum teams, like we're going to have 3 developers, actually 3 full stack engineers. That one is going to take care of the infrastructures, even though he can code the back end as well. And the lab 2 is going to take care of the whole features from front end to the back end, because a minimum team is going to reduce the cost of communication. If you had a lot of members in your team, so it requires you to communicate a lot as well. So because number of core features for the minimum viable product is not so much. So one person can, take in charge the whole features. So team experience is an important factor as well. You have to have the right person, the right skill set, and the right team. And of course, timeline and cost is going to be outside the business side. So when you schedule for, a minimum viable product, you have to consider the time when you want to launch the product to the end users. So you can see that in the past there were a lot of startups that with the same features, but they launched at the wrong time and they cannot extend their business. So timing is another key features for you guys to consider when you really want to launch that, like to meet an event, or like at that time in the futures that the behavior of the user is going to change based on some of the vast change in the society, something like that. You have to consider that thing as well. And of course, the number 6 is your cost. It's about the cost. So your budget that you're going to plan to build an MVP. So as you can see, that is some of the key factors to consider, and then you're going to see in the right pictures that we can have a matrix like important and urgent. So it's pretty much simple. So if a task is an important and urgent, you have to do it. And then it's not really urgent, so you can plan, you can do it in the future. And then if it's urgent and not important, so you can consider use another third party in order to do that for you. And if it's really not important and not urgent right away, so you can get rid of it because it's not really a good factor to put into the number of the core features. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, I can see that when look at into the consideration matrix, so the key factor to consider here is just about the matter of choice, and yeah, it's quite very. We need to prepare a very scientific plan, but I think that almost most of the startup they also have a common mistake that sometimes business think that their product idea was brilliant and they prepare so well for it, but it end up a failure. So there are some common mistakes that can break your MVP product, like the lack of the market research, compromise on core feature, like and poor testing method that you were very well at the development phase, but when it comes to release phase and for the user UAT phase, for example, it comes very unusable function. And the number four is like no customer feedback analysis, like you do not have any resource to collect the customer feedback and do not have a really a right analysis system to understand what is good or not good in your product at the first release phase. And the last one, I think, is the insufficient resources. Is about the you do not have enough resource to keep doing the good work on development, or your resource cannot provide enough technology, skill, or availability. So your product come to become very terrible in function and usability. I think so. So can you give our audience some of your opinions about this common mistake?
Yeah, we can call them common mistakes, but sometimes that the product owner of an MVP, they know about these things, but they don't know how to resolve it. So let's talk about the number one and number two, like a market research and compromise core features. So like a market research is an important thing. Actually, it's just on the business side. So you have an idea, you think that your idea is going to meet the user requirements, but actually that when you launch the application to the users, to the user, no one wants to use it. So it's called about like a market research, or even they do conduct a market research, but it's not the right time when you launch the product. It also affect to your MVP as well. The number second thing is I really want to talk about the compromise and core features. Now it's extremely difficult to define the core features on an MVP. So basically that even though that I think that is really hard because we have a lot of discussion with a lot of clients from Japan. Actually, that because ShipAsia has mainly business with Japan. So normally the product owner is going to put a lot of features inside of the products because it's going to keep the products, a very long time to release. They really want more and more and more features. They overthinking about the features that they really want to put inside. So it's just a little bit different from compromise and core features. Like you're going to release features that does not reflect about your concept. So the users is not going to high evaluate your product. So I think that number two, based on ShipAsia experience, it's just a little bit reverse. And the number three about board testing method is going to be like, board testing method here is like, you don't know how to prioritize your tests. Because when you think about MVP, the first common mistake is you're going to get rid of the testing phase. So you just focus on the development phase only because you think that it's good to release to the user as fast as possible. So sometimes that you're going to have an mistakes going. Your user is going to be your tester. So you're going to let the user to test your products. It's not really good because sometimes that if from the first from the first time the user use your product, it's very important that you really want to make uh, you really want to make the user think that your product is good. But if they just use your product and it's had a bugs, like a critical bugs, like we usually call it the functionality bugs, like the function doesn't work as expected, it's going to they going to give away your product. And the second thing about the pure testing method is you're going to get rid of performance, you're going to get rid of security, especially for security. You know, security is one of the things that you have to consider because when you launch the product to your user, you're going to gather the user information. There's personal information. So you need to meet the criteria to make sure that your user data is not stolen by hackers. So you have to make sure that your product is highly secure enough, even though that the user doesn't know about that from the first time, but maybe in the long term. So if when your product is big enough, but from your first phase, you have some vulnerabilities and the hacker can exploit that, and then it keep the hackers to gather the user information when your product big enough. So the hacker is going to, okay, we already have all of your data, so they're going to blackmail you guys and sort of like that. So broad testing method meaning is that you need to have a right strategy to test your product in an MVP development. You need to prioritize kind of testing, especially your functional testing, and then security testing is another thing that you need to consider as well. And the number four is going to be your operation. So when you launch your product, you need to have a way to gather the customer feedback, and you can put that features in your product as well, because recently that user feedback usually put in the product, and it's a very common features. It doesn't take a lot of time to add that kind of feature in your product. So just consider about how to gather your feedback of the user, and then uh, analyze that in order to keep your product evolved to meet with the client needs is important. And 5 and 6 is like efficient resource. Like you don't have enough resource from the first time, because what you want to do is 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 kind of a lot of work. The volume work is bigger than your capacity of your team, so you cannot launch the product at the right time. So saying that you're going to lose the opportunities. And technology limitation. I think technology limitation is going to be falls into you choose the right technology to develop your MVP. So sometimes that you just a very simple technology you can resolve the problem, but you put a very big technologies, it create a hinder for your development team in order to tackle, to move forward, to move fast. So it's going to be the technology limitation. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, totally agree with you on the number 3 and number 5, because in Shift Asia we not only have the MVP product but the other product too, because in before release the product or any upgradation to user, we have to do like user acceptance tests before we can release it to the market. And for the insufficient resource is really a common problem for the any company, not just startup, because the resources cannot have enough to provide to match the requirement of the product development. So yes, and yes. So moving on to the next question is that how we can do it right to build a MVP project. So here we have two cases. The first one is kind of wrong way to do a MVP development. Like as you can see that it was number two is just the product owner or a startup just focus on the functionality, which is what they want to give or provide to the user in the future and what they want to do in their product. And the second is kind of right way to do MVP, which is you have to do a little one by one, not focus on any only one of these four elements. So what do you think about these two cases? Instead of focus on the one thing that is functionality, prepare the function and what you want to do with your product, instead of doing the really minimum viable product for the user.
Actually, that I really like these pictures because it reflects, our clients, our Japanese clients, and then I can say that we can serve like a dozen of MVP development at Shape Asia with a lot of Japanese clients, and some of the clients going to fall into the lab pictures. They're going to focus mainly about the functionality. So they really want to put a lot of functionality when they create MVP, but they forgot about the usability, the design, and the reliability of the products. So it turns out like, when you put a lot of functionality into a product from the first time you release to the users, it's hard for them to catch up of the core products, that the core feature, the core concept you really want to advertise to the user. So normally they fail, actually. And then the other things, the right-hand side, we also observe a lot of another clients, like they're going to focus on, the design, the usability, reliability of the product, and even though that they just focus on the core functionality of the product. So the first thing is you have to start you have to have a concept. The concept is going to have breakdown into the functionality of your product. And then the second thing is you have to go to the phase that to analyze what kind of the potential of the user, come up with the design, even though that the user experience, user interface, color scheme, such as things. And then the next is you have to define your core features, and you want that how reliable your core feature is going to provide to the users. Of course, you really don't want your core feature to fail to serve the users, right? So you have to consider all of the things as well instead of just focusing on functionality as well. So the lab on the right hand side of the clients, they release the product and they can earn some of the very, so they release the product and they earn the user trust and they can extend the business. And we can observe that from, some of very few Japanese client. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So yes, so as you have experience in providing the solution for the MVP development for the Japanese client. So what do you think about what is the best framework or technology to apply into MVP development for a startup or otherwise? Do you have any recommendation for the startup, which is?
I think that some of the successful customers, they had a common patterns, like I mentioned before, like the concept phase, like as we mentioned in this picture here, like design thinking. It's going to be it's going to be from the customer side. We cannot, because we are just providing the resource to help them to realize, to implement their design. So I observed that a lot of, successful clients, even though they are not the unicorn right now, but somehow that they can release the product and then they have, some sort of users to use the product. So they are very clearly about the concept, and they come up with the design pattern first. So what kind of UI UX they're going to define their user personalities, what kind of characters the user have when they use their product, and what kind of characters they want the user to have. And based on that, they design the UI UX. They started from the color teams and the interaction of the UI UX. Like the user is comfortable to use. And another important is like they're going to create a UI UX that the user can understand the next action is. They can the UI is too intuitive, so when the user take a look at the user interface, they don't need a manual in order to function with your products. So they go through that, design thinking phase very carefully, and then they're going to provide us their concept, and then based on that, we're going to create the product for them. We use the right technologies. We have them to choose the right technology based on their milestone. And because based on the timeline as well, we're going to suggest them, propose them, this technology is going to help you. And then in the future, you can, if you had big enough, you had a lot of money, you can switch into another technology in order to ensure the performance and stuff like that. Actually, we're going to ask them how the number of the users that you're going to serve in order to have a big pictures. So we provide a technology proposal for them. So we going to do that over and over. Actually, we started with like agile methodologies. We talk with the clients and we try to resolve the problems for each cycle. So basically, that you have to go through a design thinking phase. It's a very, I know it's very pain point phase, but you have to go through that phase first. You have to analyze your user. You have to analyze the personality of your users, and then you come up with a lean UI user experience. And then you're going to have a loop of development, release to user, get the feedback, and then development as well. So it's going to be processed in an agile methodologies. And of course, the most important thing for our agile methodology to work is you have the right resource, the number of the full stack engineers, and the number of the agile tester, the suitable numbers of the team in order to boost your productivity with the agile methodology. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So I see that, yeah, so in order to have enough the design thinking and create the lean UX, UI UX, and before going into development phase, we should have like some workflow or a concept, which is I think the agile development is the best match for the uh, case of MVP development, right?
Yeah, of course, because we have to change, adapt with the new ideas that the customer feedback to us. So we cannot, use the waterfall or V model in this kind of development. It's too low, it's too slow. It takes a lot of time for you to release the product to the end user. That we need to do the PDCA. We try to launch as fast as possible, get the error and try to fix it, and then launch again. So that's why we have to come up with the agile methodology.
Yes. So as when we come into the development phase, so I think there's some technology that might take time to for developer to comprehensive to use, and some technology that really easy to use and build a product really fast. So what do you think about the technology that can have so in web app or mobile app development?
Yeah, I think that for mobile development and for web application, let's talk about mobile development. So if the user really want to build mobile development, the first thing is you have to ask that what kind of core features that the user really want to the user is the product owners. The product owner is going to have, and based on their core features, you're going to analyze the technical level. Does that core feature need a native support from the application from the smartphone? Let's say, for example, do you have to access to the native level of the operating system in iOS or Android? So it's just a very normal features that you can just suggest them to build to use, a cross-platform development programming language like Flutter or React Native, because you just build one source code and then you can build into different iOS and Android platforms. It's going to shorten your development phase. So Flutter is one of the best choice when you come up with the build the smartphone app nowadays. And even though that you can leverage web view application hybrid smartphone app, like you're going to build a web view, your smartphone only have a web view, and you can create a responsive web application, and then you put into the web and it's done. So it's pretty much fast in order to do that. But remember that it's going, because building using Flutter, using WebView, and then using native is going to have different user experience. Some of the users going to need a very native experience, like they use their smartphone. So you have to understand that as well. If you need a kind of level, so you have to have a native iOS developer or native Android developer in order to achieve that kind of features. And also the same thing with web application. So normally when we talk about web application, we're going to have front-end development and back-end development, right? So for the back-end development, the most important thing, the most general common pattern is going to create a RESTful API. And then for web, for the front end, we go and have a lot of features that in order to boost the productivity for the front end team and even for a back end team. So normally that you're going to keep track, stick with the user library. For the front end team, you're going to keep using a user library framework. There's a lot of user library framework out there. Let's say, for example, Material UI, Entity, a lot of stuff. So you need to how to use that kind of features, how to use that kind of frameworks, and then you need to how to customize the framework in order to meet with your users' themes, your user color themes. It's important thing. Instead of creating the UI element from scratch, it's going to take a lot of time. And for the backend side, of course, you're going to leverage a RESTful API. But the most important thing, you have to choose the right software in order to help you to have code generator. The code generator is very useful. And even though nowadays that you can ask, you can use Copilot or ChatGPT in order to help you to generate some pattern of the code. And another common feature for a web application is going to be the user authentication system. So for user authentication, you can use third-party service like AWS Corridor or even the Fi-based authentication users, because these third-party service is going to help you. You have your user experience, like they can use their other NSS account log into your system. They can log in by Facebook, they can log in by Google, they can log in by Apple, and these third-party service already have that in their core feature. You just use it instead of create from scratch on how to create a login from Facebook and how to create a login from Google, Apple, some sort of. It's going to take a lot of time. So some of the command features you can leverage the third-party service, but some of your core features. So the left thing is your core features. So you just concentrate your core feature. That is the important thing to choose the technologies. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. So when it comes to like planning or prepare anything for the MVP development, the last thing we'll go down to the cost consideration. So I think that the best idea for the startup is that they have enough money for them to have a team, an in-house team to manage to develop the product from back to back. But in reality, not every startup have enough money or have enough resources for them to build their own team. So what do you think about the business should build use their own resources or build their own resources to develop the MVP product, or they can use the outsourcing resources on their MVP product development?
I think that it's going to the answer is it depends on their money as well.
Yeah,
So like if they have an in-house development team, so they must have a big budget in order to hire engineers, hire the good resource in order to conduct to build their product. So even though you had a lot of money, but hiring the right resource is going to be a very, how to say, it's not easy to hire the right resource right away. You put that's why that I observe a lot of startup in Vietnam as well. They're going to pay they in order to hire the right resource, they're going to pay they're going to use their money to pay a lot of money like to attract the resource. But it turns out that they just burn their money like in 1 year, and then they run out of the budget, and then the startup fail. So it's very common pattern that we observe in Vietnam. But in Japan, they do the other thing. They don't do that, the first thing. So I observed that in Japan, the client they usually use they going to in order to start up products they gather their minimum team in order to in-house team in order to create the functionality, and then when they have the budget they call the investment from somewhere else, they don't high more development in-house. But instead of that, they're going to outsourcing that part to a business partner, like because they don't have to hire the resource. It's very hard for them because they are small startup. They cannot hire the right resource right away because they have to compare with the other software companies. So actually, Japan is going to lack a lot of high resource. So they're going to order to another outsourcing company, and then they can go in to use the resource from there. Of course, they can interview with the resort and then make sure that the resort is had the right technology that they want, and then that kind of using is going to help them to get over the period that they need a vast development. They need a vast employees, they need vast developers in order to develop the core features, and then when it's done, they're going to release other resource, and then they still keep the minimum for the first time the resource pool to maintain the product, and then if something happen, they're going to fix the bug. So I think that is a good way, like the hybrid way, to have an in-house development team in order to take care of the core the initial base of the product, and then when you need to develop a lot of features, that you're going to ask the other outsourcing company to provide you the resource, because it's going to help you to cut down, the time need in order to hire the right resource, because hiring the resource in Japan or in any other European country or Australia is going to cost a lot of money. So finding another company like in Vietnam, I think in Vietnam is more, easy for them in order to outsourcing cut down the cost. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Because yeah, I think both in-house and outsource team will have their pros and cons too. So it depends on the what you have and what you can at the moment, and so you can consider the in-house team or outsource team development too. And yeah, so after delivering some of the MVP projects with the clients worldwide. Can you share some tips for running a successful MVP project for our audience to refer here? Yeah, you guys can see here is a sample of a case study of a MVP project in Shift Asia. So can you share something about just like planning, like project execution and cost management in this project?
Okay, so just is one of the case study that we have. The Yeah, you know that I just want to introduce a little bit about this product. So you know that nowadays we are really care about our environment, especially that how much we emit CO2 into the environment. So the product owner of this product, they had a vision, they had a concept of how to calculate each consumer, each user, that how much CO2 they emit into the environment based on their purchasing. Like when you have a credit card, you're going to buy some stuff, and then based on your transaction buying the stuff, so they can calculate that how much CO2 that you emit by your behavior you emit into the environment. So it's a pretty much you know interesting concept, and then in order to help them in order to have them to implement that. So we just suggest them the technologies that we can do that, because the first thing is uh, they really need how to say, they going to have an application that can run in both web and then in even though that is smartphone. And the first thing that they really want an application, they really want a smartphone application. Like I want to release in Apple Store, I want to release in Play Store. But you know that nowadays, in order for you to release a new application in the Apple Store, is going to take a lot of time. So you have to submit into Apple, and they go through, you know, the check that your app is good enough in order to release in Apple Store. So we just suggest them in order to do that, because everybody is going to have a browser. So why don't you create just a responsive application that is going to shorten your time. You can release it away, and because your features, you don't have any calculation from the client side, even from the product, from the front end side. So every calculation is going to be conducted in the back end side, and because we also have to integrate with the bank, the credit card issuer company in order to get the transaction of the users. So we're going to promote them that we can use Python, because Python is pretty much good with the ETL, extract, translate, and it uses the ETL, extract, translate, and importing the data. So that's why we promote them the stack. Like we're going to use Next.js, because it's going to help them your server-side generation, help them to get the SEO as well, and then we can build a responsive web app for them in order to show the information that the user, how much the CO2 the user emit to the client, to the environment. And back inside that, we're going to use Django and Python, because Django is going to help you to quickly develop the RESTful API. Django has very beautiful code generator features. So and the reason that we choose Python, because we had to need some of the ETL job in order to integrate the data from the other system into their system. That's why we choose Python. So with Python, we can do the job for the backend side and for the ETL. And the infrastructure is going to be AWS. We have them to build the infrastructure. And then with that, all of the things that the right technologies that we can help them to develop the tools, the products like in 4 months. Yeah. So it's pretty much fast. They had the web, and they had the design, and then we have them to choose the right technology. We have the right team in order to conduct the implementation phase for them.
Okay. Thank you, Peter, for sharing great insight into MVP development. So yeah, so that would be the wrap up of our discussion today. So let's move next to the QA time from the audience. So yeah, I can see here there's one question from anonymous attendee that uh, Peter, would you recommend NoSQL database for MVP development?
I think the answer is going to be a yes, because in Ship Asia that we
Yeah.
do have NoSQL database for MVP. MVP the most important thing is NoSQL have the ability for us to store to change the data schema dynamically, that we don't have to create a migration file to, like, we're going to add a new feature, we're going to add another file, another columns into the table with SQL database. So my suggestion is going to be like, if you don't have to do a lot of query, a lot of join, and then you really want to make it fast into the product, and because somehow in the future you need to change your NoSQL database into an SQL database. So with that in mind, you can come up with an ETL by job in order to create, PR report for the user for the dashboard. But for the end user, you can use a NoSQL database. It's pretty much easy to develop. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
But the important thing when you choose NoSQL database, because the schema is, they don't have schema, frankly speaking. So they just document DB. You can add more field, and then you can remove the field. So it's very important to notice that from when you develop application, so your development teams should be aware of the schema of the NoSQL database, even though it is NoSQL, it's schema. So it means that when your application code, you have to define the type, to map with the document or the collection of your NoSQL database. So because when you start with NoSQL database, it's pretty much easy for you to get an error, like sometimes you want to show some of the information, but it doesn't have in the database. So I mean that, the more freedom you give to your development team, so you have to make sure that they can guard the schema in the application code, not from the database. Yeah.
Good. Sure. Thank you. Guess so. Let's. Do we have any new question from our audience? Yes. Let's wait. Okay. So hi everyone. Yeah. If you do not have any questions, so I guess is the end of the discussion today. So yes, so thank you for your time today to joining me and Peter on the MVP development discussion. So yes, see you next time, and I hope that the contents of the seminar today will help you make a better experience or well planned in the future on the MVP development. So yeah, thank you, Peter. Thank you, everyone.